Hey there, Melissa Klein here, and just walking you through the next steps of this painting. That's where it ended. Here I've laid out the rough sketch. I've already talked a little bit about that. And just getting ready to lay in basically washes of color. And so what I'm doing here is I wet down the entire paper, and I'm going for what I would call a subtle gradient effect. So I'm using a lot of water. I'm using a very wet brush. Sometimes I'm just barely touching my brush into the paint, um, and just being kind of cautious. Then I let it dry. So that's next. And don't touch. That's really hard for me. And in fact, I think when I did that, I said a little, and you can see it's like watching paint dry by not touching it. And I could see I smeared that in that process. But that's still important because if you're trying to build up layers, now here what I'm doing is the sand, I know in the photograph it looks kind of very gray, but in real life, it's kind of a warm gray. I'm seeing a lot of yellow in it, or yellow ochre earth tone. And then what I'm doing here is I'm painting the sand in the hourglass and pretending that there is no reflections, no nothing. I'm just looking through into that thing, into the sand, and painting only the sand. And trying to get the shadows in the sand. And then I noticed there was this like sort of kind of ball of glass in the middle it all funnels into. Here I'm adding the shadows underneath. I really kind of carefully orchestrated how these shadows looked using my clamp lamp, moving it around to get it to a point that I liked. Developing the background a lot more. And actually even though I have a very light pencil drawing, I'm using the background gradient and I'm painting around it to create the form. I really noticed there's a big difference between the sand looking a lot warmer on the top versus the sides of it. And there was this like sort of little like whirlpool dimple of, that it was going down into. It was interesting doing this because it was moving all the time. So I just kind of had to decide, where do I want it? And I decided, well, I'm in midlife crisis. Fine, we'll do it about halfway there. So that's my logic. There I'm trying to show you a little bit of what I'm doing. I was working a combination of gouache and watercolor, mostly because I liked, kind of between my two sets, some of the colors on one worked better for some of the things I was doing and vice versa. So it was really for me about color. I was watering down the gouache a lot so that it would, be very transparent. Now here what I've done is I've laid in very, very light washes of glass, kind of laying in the shadows over that glass to develop it more, and sort of the intersection. And then I'm kind of ignoring that I've done that with the sand. I'm also laying those washes over where it's basically dry. I'm avoiding the spots that are wet. So being actually quite intentional. I am working from life. What's kind of interesting too with this whole thing is that my photograph for some reason does not match very very well what I saw in real life. So there was like kind of this disconnect between my photograph and what I was observing, even though I took the photograph with the same light. So I'm not sure what that is. Thinking to myself, I need to keep my head out of the way. Oh, there I'm wiping down my brush, using paper towel to get it, just barely there so that I can blend it. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll take just a barely damp brush and kind of scuff it along the surface. So there you go. Thank you for watching. The next step is going to be adding the highlights.